My guest today is Dr. Karen Sutherland, and we were just laughing because I was trying to get her whole title right and I just couldn't do it. Karen, tell us about you.
Okay, I am a lecturer in public relations and social media at the University of the Sunshine Coast, and I'm the discipline leader for public relations and the program coordinator of the Bachelor of Communications Social Media.
See, I wouldn't have stood a chance.
I stumbled myself.
How can people find out more about your work?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Dr Karen Sutherland, or you can visit my website, drkarensutherland.com.
Fantastic. Stay right to the end. I'm Robin Cook. This is Stories from the Red Couch. I know you'll love it. Social media, like other creative digital skills, photography, audio, that type of thing, with some pretty basic equipment and a bit of skill and a bit of knowledge, you can really set yourself up in a business pretty easily, I would think. Mm-hmm. So in teaching social media in a tertiary level, what sort of experience and immersion are your students getting that will make them stand out in, what's a fairly crowded market, and they need to have that edge. Yeah. So what sort of things are they learning in a tertiary setting with you?
Yeah, well, they learn both practical and theoretical and the application of that. And so what it is that they're really learning to apply to the practicalities of social media are the business principles and the communication principles. So if you think about it, there's really there's actually more than three, but generally there's about three disciplines that entwine with social media, and that's marketing, public relations and advertising at the heart of it, and of course communication as a communication tool. And so without those knowledge and a deeper knowledge in those sorts of areas, you'll find that people who are sort of cherry picking information off the internet won't have that deeper understanding of those principles, and even just basic business principles. It's more than, you need the creative and you need to know how to use the platforms, but you also need to know, have a deep understanding about audiences and how to research audiences, and then also even analytics as well, like understanding and using the analytics. And
strategizing.
And of course, and the strategy behind it. And so the analytics, we have a whole course just in analytics, and where students work with real clients. And what we do at USC is that most of the social media courses, students are working with real clients. And so while they're gaining that theoretical understanding, they're also actually applying that and gaining practical experience to put on their CV, and in some courses even the results from working with those clients to put on those CVs as well. So I mean, you can yes, absolutely, just start a business with a few things, but just having that more of that business sense and that more of a holistic and deeper understanding of what goes into it will definitely set them apart, I believe.
And what about branding? Because I worked for the Stephanie Alexander Kitchen Garden Foundation for a few years, and when I started there, I was very much an individual, and it was very clear straight up that I had to have a corporate voice. Yes. And right down to the fonts that we used and the language that I used. How important is that? Because I came to realise that it was. Tell me about the importance of that in branding. Business. For these students coming in.
Well, we actually teach them about personal branding in some of the social media courses, and it's more like you can be original, but and be your own brand if you've got your own business, but it needs to be consistent, and so being consistent helps to build trust, and trust is, like in any sort of relationship, business or whatever, is the most important component. And so when you have that trust, you start to build that relationship, and that's the cornerstone of business. Really, is building that relationship.
Because if you as a customer, if you're hearing different ideas or different approaches from the one business, I guess that's confusing.
Oh, totally confusing. And I mean, really, even when students are developing strategy for the social media courses, we say in a strategy no more than 3 key messages. And the way you communicate those, you don't have to say them literally, but you need to be able to show at least one of those in your social media content to keep that consistent messaging.
Yeah, and I guess the experience that the students are getting in those real businesses are giving that depth to how you might push those messages forward with some diversity and variety, but still being consistent in that.
That's right. And I mean, it's such a great experience for them to realise that communicating on social media should be strategic for a business, like not just slapping up.
I know.
You actually think, what are you trying to say?
And it's a serious platform, really, isn't it?
I mean, and to do it well, you have to really understand who are you trying to speak to.
Yes.
One of the biggest mistakes businesses do is that they try and speak to everybody, and when you try and speak to everybody, you don't end up speaking to anybody.
Anyone, that's that shotgun approach, isn't it? I think that's always been the case in marketing, but now the opportunity to reach millions of people,
billions even. On some platforms,
is not like the Yellow Pages ads that I used to put in for our business in the 1980s. Where we'd be lucky to reach, I don't know, a couple of hundred people. And it didn't seem quite so problematic, but now it's massive, isn't it?
Oh, totally.
What sort of businesses are your students working in?
All sorts. We have a sort of pet supply company. We have a record studio. We there were just like any florists, restaurants and cafes and bars.
That's wonderful,
they're
isn't it?
from everywhere, and the students get like a few weeks to choose their own if they want to, and then otherwise we allocate them. They're all on the Sunshine Coast. But what the funny thing is, the first year we ran this particular course, there were 55 students. Last year there was 75. This year there's over 100.
Wow.
And every time, the first time I ran it, I was a bit worried, am I going to get the businesses? But I'm inundated. I have to turn the online form off after a couple of days usually because I can't cope.
There's so
many people on businesses on the Sunshine Coast need help.
Well, a lot of I think there's statistics that say how many, but most businesses on the Sunshine Coast are small to medium, aren't they? And they'll be solopreneurs or maybe 2 staff. So I guess that having some specialist social media coming in would be tremendously valuable.
And I mean, it's a learning experience for some students in the social media courses in the minor, which is the 4 freely available courses. There aren't any prerequisites, so any student studying anything could actually do those, because you need these skills in any business.
That's a really it wouldn't matter what you were doing. That would be valuable.
And so like for some students, I have a student who's studying criminology, and now they're in this course and they've never looked at a strategy or anything like that before. And so it's so they're sort of seeing this stuff for the first time. But say PR students, marketing students, communication students are a bit more familiar,
of course,
with it. So and everyone's at a different stage. And I mean, the ultimate goal really with the way that I structure it is for students to gain employment at the end, and they actually do. So I've had one student this week already who's been offered employment to help implement the strategy they've created for the course.
That's brilliant.
And the end of semester we have a networking event where we have employers who are looking to hire and students looking for work, and and the students sometimes, even if they're not offered anything, they get that opportunity to learn how to network face to face and gain that experience.
Is that unusual in a university course to bring those groups together?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so, and the way that I run it, it's so I find out before who's interested in this conversation, because not everyone is. Everyone's still welcome. And so the people who are interested, they'll wear a blue badge, and the students will wear a blue badge looking for opportunities, so then they can identify each other, so then it's not so awkward if they approach and then they're
rejected.
So they sort of know.
I think that's brilliant. And I follow you on social media, and you're so active, and from these beautiful dawn at the beach shots, and then grabbing hold of interesting people like Dennis Yu, who was here for a day.
Yeah.
How do you balance your in real life with your social media life, and how do you encourage your students to do that?
Well, I mean, my whole focus on social media is to use it as a tool. So use it with purpose and use it in a way that is trying to enhance your offline life. So even with the way the courses are structured, they're gaining real practical experience. It's not just online. There's courses where they have to use a range of social media platforms as well, and other communication platforms as well. So students understand that. We also run things like international study tours every year. So
you're going away soon, aren't you?
Mumbai in mid-June.
That's so
for
exciting.
2 weeks and taking students. And what we're doing there is, for most of the trip, is going into charities, and we'll do an audit on their social media. We'll go away and write up some recommendations and go back the next day and present. So they just don't have the money or the expertise, and so they just want some advice, really. And so we're going over to sort of help them with that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
You do that a lot, don't you? Work with not-for-profit organisations and so forth. I think that's wonderful way of reaching a whole lot of people that probably wouldn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, well, my PhD looked at social media and non-profit organisations, and I realised at the end my whole point was to help them, but no one's going to read my thesis. So I thought I need a better way to get this out to them, and so that's why every month I'll do a free workshop for even local and even in other states. So I'm doing a Zoom, I think, on the weekend with people in other states, and I'm also doing Peter Mack. They signed up down in Melbourne. They're going to fly me down in October to do a workshop for them. So it's just I'm just really grateful that I get the opportunity to even do this sort of thing.
Yeah. What sort of points can you cover in a day?
Well, see, it depends. It's good to go into an organisation and give specific points to that organisation, so quite a lot. But when it's, say, a group of different types of businesses, it's much more difficult and much more generic. So with this, the not-for-profit ones, I like to find out and do research before about what they want to know, and then I'll customise it. And so I do some workshops, paid workshops, where I do that as well. But generally, like, that's why I focus on one organisation at a time. So they can be quite helpful. Yeah.
And I was going to talk to you about how you getting back to that social media presence that you have, and then bringing those students and potential employers together. It really doesn't feel like that's a university kind of voice. The feeling that I'm getting here is that you're stepping outside of that norm and using that social media banner and way of life to make those changes, to update the way that students interact with the world, and to make sure that they're getting that practical experience. Is that how you're feeling?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to teach them that social media can be used to enhance your life offline, and that it's better to use it as a tool in more positive and effective, to use it as a tool in that way than just immersing yourself in it and just using it as a distraction, because you can just get lost in a black hole by doing that, and you forget what's actually going on around you.
That's right. And so it's like we talk about a little a bar going from consumer to creator, and nudging it all the way along. So more and more and more creation, rather than just that whole black hole of consumerism.
Yeah, and I mean, with social media, and I've done research and written papers on it, and blog posts around just telling businesses that you have to include these offline experiences as part of your social media strategy, because they're the things that actually build the relationship. So the relationships that are formed just online are generally not as strong as the ones that you also have offline experiences with, so you build that rapport in person. And memories, like you won't really remember a great piece of social media content, but you'll remember a great event or experience, how something made you feel. And so then you keep them connected online until you can do that again.
The LinkedIn network up here on the Sunshine Coast have a regular meetup. And I've been going to those.
I've been looking at that to go.
I really enjoy it because there is an opportunity to have a conversation with these people, and we already seem to have some of those relationship elements worked out before we even meet. You're going to know something about the person. I just think it helps. Like, it just adds another dimension to it, and even when you go back online and interact with that person, it's a much deeper connection, I think. I agree. How can people find out more about your work, Karen?
Well, I'm on Facebook. So Dr Karen Sutherland on Facebook, and I have a website, drkarensutherland.com. So I'm on there. I have blog posts and things like that. I'm on pretty much every social media channel.
As you would expect.
And LinkedIn, of course. So really my key ones are LinkedIn, Facebook, and my website. So you're always welcome to contact me through there.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
That was wonderful. My guest today was Dr. Karen Sutherland. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Public Relations and the program coordinator of the Bachelor's Communication.
Okay, I'm not going to remember that. Actually, I'm going to let you say that.
Okay. All right.